don't think people realize how extensive the experience of child trauma is among young people.
It can result in a lifetime of struggle.
So it's a very significant problem. 25% of all children will experience a traumatic event before the age of 16.
Community violence, domestic violence, child abuse, other kinds of man-made and natural disasters.
These kinds of experiences change the way children see the world.
We know that very few children who have these kinds of experiences are getting care right now.
The network brings is really this very, not only broad range of trauma-related expertise, but also very specific and targeted research into the country.
We have people involved in the network from every discipline and walk of life.
It's very exciting to see the passion that they have for this work, to see how much they're dedicated.
We say we wanted to help children in a new way. We say something new and different was needed to transform our mental health care system for kids. Now's our chance.
We all deal with adversity, each and every day, each and every one of us. But what happens when that adversity is extraordinary? What happens when children are unexpectedly faced with the unkind reality of a traumatic event?
Young children believe in a kind of protective shield, so do parents. That is, that parents will be able to protect their children and children will be protected by their parents. Traumatic experiences often disrupt that.
The prevalence of exposure to a wide range of traumatic events is really significant for children in our communities. There are a number of very good studies that have shown that children in urban and in rural school systems, for example, can experience significant amounts of trauma.
1 in 4 of them, has experienced some sort of a traumatic event in his or her lifetime. It's something that happens to all children, yours, mine, ours.
Every year in the United States, over 60,000 children experience the suicidal death of a relative. Every month, it is estimated that close to 75,000 children are victims of abuse and neglect. Every weekend, traffic accidents across our nation's highways kill approximately 300 people, affecting countless children and families. Each year, thousands of children experience severe trauma due to natural disasters, such as wildfires, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, and earthquakes. In addition, thousands more who have come to the United States have experienced trauma through war, disaster, and terrorism in their countries of origin. How a young person responds to such adversity can have a dramatic impact on their emotional development for years to come.
I think in our society too often, people say get over it, and they say it to adults too, and they say, oh, especially if the child is little, they'll forget, and they don't forget.
When children are exposed to the horrors of traumatic life experiences, horrors that you wouldn't consider part of normal development, things like terrorism, disaster, rape, abuse, violence in the home, violence in their community, their young minds and bodies are overwhelmed and stressed in ways that can affect their very development.
And our concern is that really these types of events have a very profound effect on children, not only in terms of their symptomatic response, but in terms of how these kinds of experiences, for example, change the way they see the ability of the governmental agencies and authorities to protect them, change the way they see their own self-efficacy in the world, and their trust and reliance in others.
Many children do not return to school, so there's lowered school attendance overall. Also, children don't do as well academically because when they experience traumatic stress, it also changes the way that they think, so they're not able to pay attention in school.
What has to be rebuilt for children, first and foremost, I think, is the ability to trust the way in which they now understand the world as a dangerous place.
In October of 2001, the United States Congress took action and elevated the issue of child trauma to a national level by funding the Donald J. Cohen National Child Traumatic Stress Initiative. Under the leadership of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the National Child Traumatic Stress Network was established.
The primary mission of the Child Traumatic Stress Network is to raise the standard of care for children who've experienced traumatic events and to improve access to services for these children.
So it brings together people that have worked in their own fields, important fields, but brings them into a cohesive group to address this issue as a whole.
We have had many federal initiatives in the past that have funded individual programs across the country to address a variety of problems that children and families face. But this network is different. It's providing funding for collaboration amongst over 50 centers across the country. And these are really centers of excellence. These are centers that have demonstrated their expertise and skill in helping children in a variety of ways.
From its earliest days, as the network came together, one thing became apparent. Its members all seemed to share a common vision.
It's really a very exciting process to see the sites work together and to learn from each other and to actually see, what we've put on paper work in practice.
Collaboration counts. It matters.
For us to be able to sit down in a work group with agencies from New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Washington, D.C., for us to be able to interface and interact with other agencies and learn from them and share our knowledge with them has been a really wonderful experience for us.
The NCTSN is made up of 3 integrated categories. Network leadership is provided by the National Center for Child Traumatic Stress, located at the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute and Duke University Medical Center.
As a co-director, I work very closely with John Fairbanks, so they're 2 co-directors, and I think we hopefully set up a collaborative milieu for the whole network by how we go about our work.
Supporting the necessary steps that human beings need in order to collaborate and cooperate when they come from different worlds, different disciplines, different backgrounds, and it's working.
A select group of intervention development and evaluation centers are a second category of the NCTSN. These centers lead the network by identifying, improving, developing, and disseminating best practices and treatments for children and families who experience traumatic stress.
They're the ones that are usually the larger university-based centers that are developing treatments and interventions, testing those treatments, doing the research on them, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, how do we make it work.
We could not have made the progress that we have in such a short time in terms of developing and disseminating effective treatments for traumatized children without the synergy that's part of the National Child Traumatic Stress Network.
I have been very impressed by the richness of intervention and the willingness of different centers to collaborate with each other in learning new ways of approaching children suffering from traumatic stress.
Spanning the country is a third category of the NCTSN, Community Treatment and Service Centers. Collectively, these centers extend the network's reach out into the neighborhoods and communities where trauma interventions can have a real and lasting impact on our nation's children and families.
We get to rely on the clinical wisdom and experience and service experience of our Category 3 sites.
We're committed to learning from both our academic partners and people that are in medical schools and training hospitals, and we're also committed to learning from people that are out in the field seeing and working with traumatized children.
Our access to experts throughout the country has helped us really increase our standard of care tremendously in the agency, and for that we are very, very grateful and excited to be able to participate in this network.
So I think that collaboration, that give and take, that constant interchange and interaction between researchers, treatment sites, consumers is critical.
To assure that information, resources, and evidence-based treatments are directed to the places and people most in need, the NCTSN is further organized into several functional units.
We're actually working on developing a core skills curriculum for providers that can actually be translated into different service settings with different provider groups, with people of different educational levels, so that we can actually start to develop a common vocabulary for thinking about providing services to traumatized kids throughout this country.
And it is an exciting opportunity because of the potential, the broad reach of the network, and the depth in various areas of trauma that affects children. The work that is produced by this network is unequaled. It is an incredible portfolio of accomplishments.
We all deal with adversity. How we respond to that adversity, not just individually, but as a society, can make all the difference, especially when so much is at stake.
We can change the way children experience those events and help them lead more happy and positive and productive lives.
We know that we need to give care to the entire family.
We're going to improve access to trauma services for children across the country.
The major mission is to enhance public awareness.
The network can bring some real change in education and, most importantly,
transforming mental health services in the United States.
And that's what the network, I think, can do.
For more information about child traumatic stress, its consequences, and how the National Child Traumatic Stress Network is helping children and families, please visit our website at www.nctsnet.org.